There are fortunes that are built with effort, fortunes that are born from talent, from vision, from sacrifice. And then there are fortunes that, according to international investigations, are built upon the suffering of millions, upon the hunger of an entire people. Nicolasito Maduro Guerra, the son of the Venezuelan leader, allegedly accumulated wealth so disproportionate, so obscenely grotesque, that when authorities finally managed to trace his assets in January 2026, the numbers left even investigators who had pursued drug cartels for decades astonished. This is not a story about a president's son. It's the anatomy of what US prosecutors describe as generational pillage, the X-ray of how, according to judicial documents, an entire family would have converted a nation's misery into their personal fortune. How many properties can someone 34 years old possess, while the hospitals in his country operate without electricity? How many millions can be hidden in tax havens when your only official job has been being the son of who you are? How many Lamborghinis? How many yachts? How many Swiss accounts can exist in the name of someone who has never worked a real day in his life? How is it explained that a young man without a company, without a documented legitimate business, without verifiable work history lives like an oil sheik, while Venezuelan children die from malnutrition? What kind of system allows the dictator's son to allegedly accumulate hundreds of millions while doctors and teachers earn $5 a month? How long can such impunity last before the whole world turns to look? Today, you will discover the answers based on official documents, international investigations, and verified testimonies. And I guarantee you that what you are about to learn will completely redefine your concept of family impunity. I'm going to reveal to you 5 realities that, according to US prosecutors, the Maduro family tried to keep buried for years. First, Nicolasito's phantom real estate empire, mansions distributed across 4 continents that never appeared in any asset declaration, properties valued in tens of millions purchased when he was barely 25 years old. Second, the extreme luxury vehicles, a collection of sports cars documented on social media that would make professional collectors pale $500,000 machines, each while in Venezuela, gasoline was disappearing. Third, the shell businesses and millionaire transfers, offshore companies that investigators identified as allegedly created to launder money, bank movements that prosecutors are unraveling right now. Fourth, the lifestyle documented on social media, the photographs that Nicolasito himself published shamelessly showing his excess while Venezuela collapsed, the digitized arrogance of the alleged looting, and fifth, the alleged confirmed criminal connections, the links with drug trafficking organizations that, according to US judicial documents, would have converted this young man into a key piece of a transnational criminal network. I'll let you know when I reach each revelation. If you leave before the 5th secret, you miss the information that explains exactly how, according to investigators, Nicolasito Maduro built a fortune estimated at more than $200 million before turning 35. Subscribe if you want to understand how authoritarian dynasties allegedly create millionaire heirs while entire peoples flee their countries empty-handed. Because this story has bank records leaked to international media, has photographs that Nicolasito himself uploaded to Instagram, has testimonies from former employees, and has something the Maduro family never believed would see public light: the complete map of their alleged hidden wealth. Let's begin. When Nicolás Maduro assumed the presidency of Venezuela in 2013, his son was barely 21 years old, a young man without complete university education, without documented business experience, without verifiable work history of any kind. But in less than 12 years, according to investigations by US prosecutors, Nicolasito Maduro Guerra would become one of the wealthiest young people in Latin America. Not through innovation, not creating companies that generated value, not developing technology or services, but in a way that international authorities describe as systematic looting of his own country's resources, while millions of compatriots fled walking because they didn't have money even for a bus ticket. The Maduro surname became synonymous with impunity, and Nicolasito, according to testimonies from former regime employees, knew it. He knew it from day one. He knew he could take what he wanted, when he wanted, apparently without consequences, because his father controlled the courts. He controlled the military. He controlled every institution that should have stopped him. And with that power, according to prosecutors, Nicolasito built an empire invisible to Venezuelan public scrutiny, but perfectly visible to whoever knew where to look. US investigators began tracing his financial movements in 2019. What they found was what they describe as a corruption network so sophisticated, so carefully structured, that it required years of financial forensic work to dismantle. Companies created in offshore jurisdictions, transfers triangulated through multiple countries, frontmen on 3 continents, everything allegedly designed with a single purpose: to convert questionable origin money from the Venezuelan state into luxury assets in the name of a young man who, according to official records, had never earned $1 honestly in his life. While Venezuela experienced the worst humanitarian crisis in the history of the Western Hemisphere, while entire families scavenged in garbage containers looking for something edible, while children's hospitals reported deaths from malnutrition not seen since the Middle Ages, Nicolasito was buying properties in tropical paradises and uploading photographs to Instagram showing watches that cost more than what a Venezuelan doctor would earn in 100 lifetimes. Think about that contrast for a moment. While Venezuelan mothers gave birth in hospital hallways without electricity, without running water, without anesthesia, with doctors operating using cell phone flashlights, Nicolasito was in Dubai buying a $200,000 watch, according to his own social media posts. While teachers with 30 years of experience were resigning en masse because their salaries weren't enough even to pay for transportation to school, he was modifying his Lamborghini with upgrades that cost more than what those teachers would earn in their entire lives. While elderly people died in their homes because they couldn't get insulin, because pharmacies were empty, because the health system had completely collapsed, Nicolasito was celebrating parties on yachts where each bottle of champagne cost what a Venezuelan family needed to eat for an entire month. The first revelation begins now. The alleged phantom real estate empire, the properties that, according to documents obtained by prosecutors, Nicolasito acquired before turning 30 and that never, absolutely never, appeared in any official Venezuelan registry. According to documents obtained by prosecutors from the US Department of Justice, Nicolasito Maduro owns or would have directly controlled at least 12 real estate properties distributed in the Dominican Republic, Turkey, Panama, Colombia, Spain, Mexico, and the United Arab Emirates. 12 properties whose combined value exceeds $80 million. $80 million in real estate acquired by someone without documented legitimate work, without verifiable productive company, without provable source of income beyond being the leader's son. The most ostentatious property, according to leaked records, is located in Dubai, a penthouse in the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, allegedly acquired in 2017 when Nicolasito was barely 25 years old. The apartment occupies the entire 120th floor. It has 400 square meters, 360-degree panoramic view over the city, 4 master bedrooms, each with private bathroom lined in Italian marble, movie theater with capacity for 12 people, gym equipped with state-of-the-art machines, Finnish sauna, jacuzzi on the main terrace, and direct access to 5-star concierge services that include private chef, driver available 24 hours and daily cleaning. The purchase price, according to records leaked from Emirati authorities to international media, was $18 million. $18 million that, according to bank documents, were paid in cash. Without mortgage, without financing. $18 million disbursed all at once by a 25-year-old young man who officially had no documented job. The transaction, according to investigators, was carried out through a company registered in the British Virgin Islands, whose final beneficiary was impossible to trace without international cooperation. But US investigators managed to connect the dots. The bank transfers that financed that purchase, according to reports, came from accounts in Panama linked to Venezuelan oil companies controlled by his father's regime. While Nicolasito allegedly bought penthouses in Dubai, in Venezuela salaries were plummeting to levels that defied economic logic. A school teacher with 20 years of experience earned $3 a month. $3. Less than what a coffee costs in any city in the world. A specialist doctor with postgraduate degree and years of training earned $7 monthly. Nurses who worked 12-hour shifts saving lives earned $2 a month. Complete families, with both parents working full-time, survived on $10 monthly. And the president's son spent $18 million on an apartment that, according to testimonies, he visited maybe twice a year. The second most valuable property, according to journalistic investigations, is in Istanbul, another city where the international elite hides their wealth far from uncomfortable glances. The apartment is located in Bebek, one of Turkey's most exclusive neighborhoods, with direct view of the Bosphorus. 3 spacious bedrooms, 2 terraces totaling more than 100 square meters, Carrara imported marble finishes, complete home automation system that controls lighting, temperature and security from a mobile application, kitchen equipped with high-end Miele appliances. It was bought in 2018 for $6 million. The registered buyer was a Turkish businessman who coincidentally had million-dollar contracts with PDVSA to supposedly supply oil drilling equipment. When Turkish journalists investigated, they discovered that businessman had never lived in the apartment. In fact, he had never entered. The property was managed by a real estate agency that received instructions from Venezuela. The service bills, electricity, water, gas, maintenance, according to documents, were paid from an account in Switzerland. In the Dominican Republic, Nicolasito allegedly owns 2 properties according to international investigations. A villa in Casa de Campo, the Caribbean's most exclusive resort, valued at $4 million. The villa has 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, 25-meter infinity pool, tennis court, private dock with capacity for yachts up to 50 feet, heliport and permanent service staff, including gardeners, cleaning personnel, and private security. The second property is an oceanfront apartment in Punta Cana with estimated value of $2 million. 3 bedrooms, terrace with ocean view, direct access to private beach, golf club membership. Both properties, according to Panamanian records, are registered in the name of Panamanian offshore companies. Both were purchased between 2016 and 2017, when Nicolasito was 24 and 25 years old. Both remained practically unoccupied, except for occasional weekends when Nicolasito arrived in private jets with groups of friends to celebrate while Venezuela was sinking. Testimonies from former employees of those properties are revealing. A gardener who worked at the Casa de Campo Villa for 2 years declared before investigators that Nicolasito organized parties that lasted entire days. Groups of 20-30 people arrived in private jets. Cristal champagne costing $500 a bottle flowed non-stop. Lobsters imported from Maine. Beluga caviar costing $3,000 per kilo. International DJs brought specifically to animate the celebrations, paying them $20,000–$30,000 per night. Everything allegedly paid with money, whose origin no one questioned because everyone knew where it came from the Venezuelan people. The gardener remembered a specific party in July 2018. It lasted 4 days. The total expense on food, drinks, entertainment and services exceeded $200,000, according to his estimation. $200,000 in 4 days of partying while in Venezuela. Hospitals didn't have gauze, didn't have syringes, didn't have basic painkillers. While pregnant women died during childbirth because there was no emergency equipment. While children died from completely treatable diseases because there were no antibiotics. In Panama, in addition to the apartment in Punta Pacifica, Nicolasito allegedly controlled stakes in 2 commercial properties, according to judicial documents. A commercial space in the city's banking area valued at $2,300,000 and a small office building in the Bella Vista district valued at $3 million. According to Panamanian judicial documents leaked to international press, those properties were purchased using the same mechanism. Phantom companies, registered in tax havens, bank transfers from Venezuela, disguised as payments for services that allegedly were never provided. Local frontmen who signed papers in exchange for monthly payments. The combined value exceeds $5 million. But perhaps the most cynical acquisition, according to reports, was an apartment in Bogotá, Colombia, the country that received more than 2 million Venezuelan refugees fleeing hunger and desperation. The country where thousands of Venezuelans literally slept in the streets because they had nowhere to live. The country where Venezuelan women prostituted themselves for $5 because they couldn't find work. There, in that same city, while his compatriots suffered unimaginable humiliations, Nicolasito allegedly bought a luxury apartment in the Rosales neighborhood, one of Bogotá's most exclusive areas, valued at $1,200,000. He bought it in 2019, just when Venezuelan migration was reaching its most critical point. While his compatriots begged at Bogotá traffic lights to get money to eat, he enjoyed a 200-square-meter apartment with view of the Eastern Hills, 4 bedrooms, private terrace, parking for 3 vehicles, and storage. Investigators also traced a property in Madrid, Spain, an apartment in the Salamanca neighborhood, specifically on Serrano Street, one of Europe's most prestigious addresses. 180 square meters, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, balcony with view of El Retiro Park, 4-meter-high ceilings with original 19th century moldings. It was bought in 2018 for €2,400,000, approximately $2,800,000. The official buyer, according to Spanish records, was a Spanish limited company whose partners were 2 Venezuelans residing in Madrid who turned out to have direct family ties with high-ranking officials of the Maduro regime. In Miami, specifically in Sunny Isles Beach, the area known internationally as a refuge for Latin American fortunes of dubious origin, investigators identified 3 apartments allegedly linked to Nicolasito. The 3 apartments were purchased between 2015 and 2017 for a total of $6 million. They are registered in the name of offshore companies in Panama and the Cayman Islands, whose final beneficiaries took years to be identified. The bank transfers that paid for those apartments, according to investigations, came from accounts in Swiss banks that are now under investigation by US authorities. One of those apartments, according to neighbors' testimonies, was never inhabited. It's simply there, empty, accumulating value while its alleged real owner enjoys other properties around the world. In Mexico, investigators identified a condominium in Playa del Carmen, valued at $1,500,000, purchased in 2016 through a Mexican trust whose beneficiary was a British Virgin Islands company. The pattern repeats again and again, according to reports. Phantom companies, complex transfers, frontmen who sign papers, and at the end of the chain, luxury properties in the name of legal structures designed specifically to hide the true owner. In total, 12 properties documented by investigators. $80 million in real estate. Everything allegedly acquired before turning 30. Everything bought without documented legitimate work. Everything allegedly financed with money of questionable origin, while Venezuela experienced the largest exodus in its history. 5 million Venezuelans fled the country between 2015 and 2023. 5 million people abandoned everything. They left their homes, their jobs, their businesses, their families. They walked hundreds, thousands of kilometers. They crossed borders illegally, risking their lives. They became undocumented immigrants in countries where they knew no one. All because staying in Venezuela meant dying of hunger. And Nicolasito allegedly bought apartments in Dubai like someone buys shoes. The contrast couldn't be more brutal or more obscene. While young Venezuelans his same age walked 1,000 kilometers to Colombia, carrying their small children in their arms because they had no money for transportation, Nicolasito flew in private jets between his alleged properties distributed around the world. While Venezuelan mothers sold their hair to buy milk for their babies, he posted photographs on Instagram from terraces with view of the Bosphorus, drinking French champagne costing $500 a bottle. While Venezuelan professionals with masters and doctoral degrees worked as food delivery drivers in Colombia or Peru, earning $300 a month, he spent $50,000 on a weekend in Dubai, according to his own posts. Now we reach the second revelation: the extreme luxury vehicles. The car collection that Nicolasito documented on social media, while in Venezuela, people abandoned their cars in the streets because there were no spare parts, no tires, no gasoline. Nicolásito Maduro has a particular obsession with sports cars according to photographic evidence on his social media. Not with just any cars. With machines that cost more than $500,000 each. With vehicles so exclusive they are manufactured by special order and have waiting lists of years. With mechanical toys that consume in 1 week of use what a complete Venezuelan family would earn in an entire lifetime of work. The collection began early, when he was barely 23 years old, according to Instagram posts. His first supercar was a Lamborghini Aventador in bright red with carbon fiber details. It wasn't enough to have a standard production Aventador. Nicolasito ordered extensive customizations that, according to expert estimates, added $150,000 to the $400,000 base price. Special forged rims in Italy with personalized design. Interior completely reupholstered in Napa leather with contrasting color stitching. A Krapovich sport exhaust system that adds power and aggressive sound. Bang & Olufsen sound system with 18 speakers. Pirelli P0 Trofeo competition tires. Special paint with 3 lacquer coats and mirror finish. The total cost exceeded $550,000. $550,000 on a car for a 23-year-old young man without documented work. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, specialized doctors with 20 years of experience saving lives earned $50 a month. Civil engineers who built bridges and highways resigned en masse because their complete salaries weren't enough even to pay for daily transportation to work. University professors with doctorates earned less than what a tank of gasoline cost on the black market. Entire families ate once a day. Children went to school without breakfast because there was no food at home. And Nicolasito allegedly bought Lamborghinis with modifications that cost more than what those doctors would earn in 10 years of work. But the Aventador was just the beginning of a collection documented on social media that would grow exponentially. After came a Ferrari 488 GTB in pearl white valued at $350,000. Then, a Porsche 911 Turbo S in matte black with aerodynamic package and power modifications that added another $100,000 to the base price. Then came a McLaren 720S in electric blue that cost $400,000, a British car of extreme engineering capable of reaching 300 kilometers per hour. And the absolute jewel of his initial collection, a Bugatti Chiron in French racing blue and silver color combination, allegedly acquired in 2019 for $3 million, according to reports. $3 million for a car, a single car. While Venezuela registered the highest inflation on the planet, exceeding 1 million% annually, while pediatric hospitals reported that children died from completely preventable diseases because there were no basic vaccines, while blood banks were empty and people died during surgeries because there was no blood for transfusions, while elderly diabetics died in their homes because they couldn't get insulin even on the black market. Nicolasito spent $3 million on a Bugatti that he basically never drove because he lived traveling between his alleged international properties. Financial investigators have documented at least 8 high-end vehicles registered in the name of companies linked to Nicolasito or allegedly acquired through frontmen, according to reports. In addition to those already mentioned, there appear a Rolls-Royce Wraith in diamond white valued at $400,000, a Bentley Continental GT Speed in British racing green that cost $300,000, a Mercedes AMG GTR in solar yellow valued at $250,000, and an Aston Martin DBS Supercars in metallic grey that cost $320,000. The combined total value of the documented collection exceeds $6 million. $6 million invested in cars that basically functioned as exhibition pieces because their alleged owner spent more time in private jets than driving. And where are those vehicles physically according to investigations? Some were photographed multiple times in Caracas by Nicolasito himself, specifically in private garages in the La Lagunita urbanization, one of the city's most exclusive and protected areas. Others were sent via specialized maritime transport to Miami, where Nicolasito allegedly kept them in climate-controlled storage facilities specifically designed for collection vehicles that cost $5,000 monthly just for the storage space. Others are in Dubai, stored in the 6-level underground garage of the Burj Khalifa, where he allegedly pays $15,000 monthly for 3 parking spaces equipped with security systems, cameras, and temperature and humidity control. But what's truly notable, what turns this vehicle collection into something morally questionable, isn't the cars themselves. It's the deliberate exhibition documented on social media, the conscious ostentation, the apparent absolute contempt toward his people's suffering. Nicolasito didn't hide his wealth. He showed it off openly. He uploaded photographs to Instagram showing his Lamborghinis parked in front of Dubai nightclubs. He posted videos recorded from inside his Ferraris driving at 200 kilometers per hour on nighttime highways. He tagged specific locations. He showed the Italian leather interiors. He showed off the digital dashboards. He recorded the sound of the engines roaring. All this while Venezuelans died trying to cross the Darien, the most dangerous jungle in America, trying to escape toward North America. A former employee of an exotic vehicle customization shop in Miami Beach declared before federal investigators that Nicolasito visited the shop regularly between 2017 and 2019. Generally every 3 or 4 months. He spent tens of thousands of dollars on each visit on modifications that added no real functionality to the vehicle. Only aesthetics, only appearance, only elements to show off on social media. The former employee vividly remembered a specific conversation in August 2018 where Nicolasito said verbatim, according to his testimony, "Money is no problem. I want this car to be completely unique, so that no one else in the world has anything like it." Money was no problem, according to that testimony. Of course not. When, according to prosecutors, one systematically takes from the coffers of an entire nation. When one converts the hunger of millions into personal fortune according to investigations, when one uses the father's political power to allegedly loot without limit, without supervision, without consequences, money is never a problem. While Nicolasito modified his Lamborghinis in Miami, shops spending $50,000 on purely aesthetic improvements. In Venezuela, people literally dismounted parts from their own vehicles to sell them on the black market because they needed the money to buy food. Cars 20, 30 years old that Venezuelan families kept running with creativity, ingenuity, and desperation because buying a new vehicle, even a basic used one, was absolutely impossible with $5 monthly salaries. And when finally spare parts completely disappeared from the market, when tires wore out and there was no way to replace them, when engines failed and the parts to repair them didn't exist, thousands and thousands of vehicles were simply abandoned in the streets of Caracas, Maracaibo, Valencia, converted into rusty scrap metal, into mobile monuments to the economic collapse that, according to international analysts, the Maduro family deliberately provoked to enrich themselves. Now we reach the third revelation: the alleged shell businesses and millionaire transfers. The international financial architecture that, according to US prosecutors, Nicolasito used to convert questionable origin money from the Venezuelan state into apparently legitimate assets distributed around the world. A 34-year-old young man doesn't accumulate $200 million without sophisticated infrastructure, according to investigators, without a system, without an international network of accomplices, private bankers, lawyers specialized in offshore and professional frontmen willing to look the other way while money flows in exchange for generous commissions. Nicolasito allegedly built exactly that, according to judicial documents. A network spanning 3 continents, operating in 6 different time zones, and moving money through jurisdictions designed specifically to protect the financial privacy of questionable clients. Prosecutors from the US Department of Justice have so far identified at least 23 offshore companies, directly or indirectly linked to Nicolasito Maduro, according to official documents. 23 legal entities registered in jurisdictions that deliberately protect the identity of final beneficiaries. British Virgin Islands, known worldwide as the preferred offshore paradise of dictators and financial criminals. Cayman Islands, where private banking operates with levels of absolute secrecy. Panama, whose financial system facilitated for decades the laundering of Latin American fortunes. Belize, a small Central American country that sells corporate anonymity. Samoa, in the South Pacific, so far geographically that Western authorities have extreme difficulties obtaining judicial cooperation. Delaware, United States, which ironically offers more corporate opacity than many traditional tax havens. Each of these companies allegedly served a specific purpose in the complex laundering chain designed to convert questionable origin money into apparently clean assets. The operational structure functioned with precision, according to prosecutors. First, money left Venezuela through contracts that investigators describe as fraudulent with PDVSA, the Venezuelan state oil company that for years allegedly functioned as a personal financing source for the Maduro family. Phantom companies, many of them without even a real physical office, billed for consulting services they allegedly never provided. Equipment maintenance that supposedly was never performed. Supply of spare parts that apparently were never bought or sent. Completely fictitious technical services according to investigations. PDVSA, politically controlled by Maduro father, paid those invoices with US dollars that were electronically transferred to bank accounts in Panama, according to documents. Those accounts formerly belonged to the first layer of offshore companies controlled through Panamanian frontmen who, according to testimonies, charged $20,000 monthly just to lend their names and sign documents when instructed. Then, immediately, sometimes in a matter of hours according to bank records, the money transferred from Panama toward a second layer of companies registered in the British Virgin Islands. There it remained briefly, sometimes literally only 24 or 48 hours, before moving again. This time, the money traveled to accounts in Swiss private banks or to financial institutions in Singapore. Each international transfer added an additional layer of legal and geographical complexity. Each cross-border movement made it exponentially more difficult for investigators to trace the money's real origin. And at the end of this transfer chain, that could involve 5, 6, 7 movements through different countries and different banking systems, the money arrived completely laundered according to prosecutors, totally whitened, apparently clean and ready to be used in the purchase of luxury real estate properties, exotic vehicles, watches of hundreds of thousands of dollars, basically anything Nicolasito desired to acquire. One of the main companies identified by investigators is called Sunrise Holdings Limited, formally registered in Tortola, British Virgin Islands, in March 2015, when Nicolasito was barely 23 years old. According to bank documents leaked to international investigative media, Sunrise Holdings received documented transfers of more than $100 million between 2015 and 2020. $100 million in 5 years, 20 million annual average. The transfers allegedly came from Venezuelan companies that, according to their export records, sold agricultural products to international markets: coffee, cacao, tropical fruits. But when investigators verified with customs authorities of destination countries, they discovered that those exports allegedly never physically occurred. There were no import records. There was no shipment documentation. There were no phytosanitary certificates. They were completely false commercial invoices according to investigations, fraudulent documents created exclusively to justify, before the international banking system, the massive outflow of dollars from Venezuela. Another absolutely key company in the structure, according to prosecutors, was Ocean View Investments S.A., registered in Panama City under the anonymous society regime that allows total opacity about who really controls the company. This company specifically bought the $2,800,000 apartment allegedly linked to Nicolasito in Punta Pacifica. It also formally acquired one of his luxury vehicles in Miami, a Ferrari valued at $350,000. And according to bank records obtained through court order in Panama, Ocean View Investments received documented bank transfers of more than $50 million between 2016 and 2019. The money supposedly came from oil contracts between PDVSA and Chinese trading companies that bought Venezuelan crude. But the contracts were structured suspiciously according to analysts. The price per barrel appearing in the contracts was significantly higher than the international market price. That artificial difference, those extra dollars that didn't correspond to the real value of the oil, went directly to Ocean View Investments accounts, according to investigations. US prosecutors also discovered something particularly sophisticated that demonstrates the level of financial planning behind this entire operation, according to official reports. Nicolasito began using cryptocurrencies to move significant part of his fortune, specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum, starting in 2017. Between 2017 and 2021, according to blockchain forensic analysis performed by specialized companies hired by investigators, transactions linked to digital wallets allegedly controlled by Nicolasito moved approximately $30 million, converted into cryptocurrencies that were later exchanged for cash in dollars or euros in international cryptocurrency exchanges. Cryptocurrencies offered him a huge advantage, according to experts. They allowed him to move massive amounts of money instantly to any part of the world without needing to go through the traditional banking system where compliance departments could detect suspicious patterns and report them to authorities. A former employee of a cryptocurrency exchange based in Dubai confidentially confirmed before US investigators that Nicolasito Maduro maintained a VIP account on that platform that granted him special privileges. Specifically, it allowed him to exchange millions of dollars in cryptocurrencies without going through the standard Know Your Customer verifications that are normally required for large transactions. The exchange, which deliberately operated in a legal gray area, taking advantage of lax regulations in the United Arab Emirates, processed the transactions without asking uncomfortable questions. According to testimony, Nicolasito deposited Bitcoin previously bought with Venezuelan money. The exchange converted it to US dollars in cash that they delivered to him physically, or alternatively transferred the dollars to any international bank account he specified. Simple, efficient, practically impossible to trace without extensive international cooperation that takes years to materialize. Investigators also discovered through analysis of leaked bank records that Nicolasito allegedly made recurring monthly payments to key people who kept this entire complex international network functioning. Lawyers specialized in offshore law with offices in Panama who dedicated themselves exclusively to creating and administering phantom companies received fixed monthly retainers of $50,000 each, according to documents. Private bankers who worked at Swiss financial institutions in Geneva and Zurich, who discreetly managed his multi-million accounts, received annual commissions of hundreds of thousands of dollars for their services and especially for their absolute discretion. Professional frontmen, people who literally dedicated themselves to lending their names and signatures to register properties and companies in exchange for money, received monthly payments of $20,000 simply for signing documents when requested and keeping their mouths completely shut, according to testimonies. This complete system, this alleged perfectly oiled money laundering machine, operated for years without significant interruptions, according to investigations. Year after year, month after month, millions and millions of dollars systematically left the Venezuelan state coffers, according to prosecutors, passed through this elaborate international laundering chain, and ended up converted into tangible luxury assets in the name of offshore companies that ultimately allegedly benefited Nicolasito Maduro. And during all that prolonged time, while he allegedly methodically accumulated his fortune in offshore accounts strategically distributed around the world, the Venezuelan people suffered in ways that defy imagination. Salaries in Venezuela literally evaporated week after week due to uncontrolled hyperinflation that reached levels never seen outside extreme historical cases like Weimar Germany or Mugabe's Zimbabwe. Savings that Venezuelan families had accumulated during entire decades of honest work disappeared in a matter of weeks. A person who had meticulously saved for 20 years to buy an apartment discovered that their complete savings no longer were enough even to buy a kilo of cheese. Families who had worked their entire lives to secure university education for their children saw those savings reduced to nothing. Properties that were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars lost all their value because absolutely no one in Venezuela had money to buy anything other than basic survival food. According to conservative estimates by international human rights organizations that have studied the Venezuelan case, approximately $130,000 million were systematically looted from Venezuela between 2013 and 2023. $130,000 million that should have been invested in public hospitals, in schools, in critical infrastructure, in dignified salaries for doctors and teachers, in medicines, in social programs. Money that simply disappeared, evaporating into the private accounts of the Maduro family, their close relatives and their innermost circle of collaborators, according to reports. And Nicolasito, the leader's privileged son, allegedly took his substantial part. $200 million documented so far, according to investigators. Possibly more that prosecutors are still trying to trace. Now we reach the fourth revelation. The lifestyle completely documented on social media. The photographic and videographic evidence that Nicolasito himself published without any kind of shame or precaution while Venezuela collapsed. There exists a particularly grotesque arrogance characteristic of authoritarian dictators' children, according to social psychologists. A psychological sensation of absolute invincibility that leads them to firmly believe that normal rules of society simply don't apply to them, that they can do what they want, take what they desire, show off openly without consequences. Nicolasito Maduro embodied that excessive arrogance better than practically any other contemporary case, according to analysts. And additionally, crucially, he documented it completely in public, on Instagram, on Facebook, on social media open for literally the whole world to see. Between 2014 and 2020, Nicolasito maintained a very active Instagram account where he regularly posted detailed photographs and videos of his life of absolutely extreme luxury. He didn't try to hide it or disguise it. He didn't use private accounts with restricted access. He didn't post from anonymous profiles. He did it completely openly, under his real name, showing his face, as if he genuinely wanted the whole world to know exactly how rich he was, how much he spent, how well he lived while millions of Venezuelans literally died of hunger in his country. The posts constituted an almost perfect visual catalogue of absolute excess. Photographs taken from luxury yachts anchored in Mediterranean ports, specifically in Saint-Tropez and Monaco, drinking $500 Cristal champagne per bottle. Videos recorded from inside his Lamborghinis and Ferraris, driving at speeds of 200 kilometers per hour on Dubai nighttime highways. Selfies taken from penthouses with panoramic views of gleaming skyscrapers. Images showing close-ups of Rolex and Audemars Piguet watches on his wrist with text descriptions that specifically included purchase prices. New toy, $120,000. He literally wrote below a photograph showing an 18-karat solid gold Rolex Daytona, according to archived screenshots. September 2017. Precisely while Venezuela experienced massive protests that extended for months, and that tragically left more than 100 dead protesters from government repression, according to human rights organizations, Nicolasito posted a photograph dining at Nuzret, the famous restaurant of celebrity Turkish chef known worldwide as Salt Bay, located in Dubai. The photograph clearly showed the dinner's final bill that he himself had photographed and decided to upload to social media, showing a total of $15,000 US. $15,000 spent on a single dinner in one night. The exact equivalent of what a specialized Venezuelan doctor with 20 years of experience would earn working full-time for 20 years. That specific photograph generated immediate international outrage. Media outlets from practically around the world reproduced it on their digital front pages. CNN, BBC, the New York Times, El País, all published the image. Exiled Venezuelan politicians used it repeatedly as an example of the apparent absolute contempt, the total disdain that the Maduro family felt toward their own people. Human rights organizations cited it in official reports, but Nicolasito never deleted it. He never eliminated the post. He left it there, permanently visible, like a digital monument to his own arrogant impunity. In May 2018, he posted a video recorded from inside a Gulfstream G650 private jet, while flying from Caracas to some unspecified international destination. In the video, which lasted approximately 30 seconds, the luxurious aircraft interior was clearly visible with immaculate white leather seats. Nicolasito, sitting comfortably drinking high-end Scottish whiskey from a cut crystal glass. The background music was reggaeton at very high volume. The caption accompanying the video simply said, "This is how you travel when you know how to travel." A single flight in that specific type of private jet costs approximately between $80,000 and $100,000, depending on distance, according to aviation companies. Nicolasito showed it off openly as if it were literally the most normal thing in the world. He also constantly, almost obsessively, posted photographs of his extensive luxury watch collection. His personal collection, documented on social media, allegedly included more than 30 watches from ultra-exclusive brands valued collectively at more than $5 million, according to luxury watch experts' estimates. Richard Mille R.M. 011 Felipe Massa in carbon fiber, valued at $150,000. Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore chronograph, completely covered in embedded diamonds, valued at $200,000. Patek Philippe Nautilus in 18-karat rose gold, valued at $100,000. Hublot Big Bang Unico King Gold with diamonds, valued at $80,000. Every week, sometimes even more frequently, he uploaded photographs showing a different watch from his collection, as if he were specifically, deliberately showing off to his hungry people. Photographs taken from his multiple alleged international properties were equally striking and provocative. Images captured from the infinity pool of his alleged villa in Casa de Campo, Dominican Republic, showing the Caribbean sunset. Videos recorded from the 100-square-meter terrace of his alleged penthouse on the 120th floor of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, showing the city's nightlights extending to the horizon. Selfies taken from the jacuzzi of his alleged apartment overlooking the Bosphorus in Istanbul, with the illuminated bridge visible in the background. Everything meticulously documented by himself. Everything intentionally posted. Everything perfectly visible to millions of Venezuelans who at that precise moment were scavenging in garbage containers in the streets of Caracas, Maracaibo and Valencia, desperately trying to find something remotely edible. An exhaustive digital, forensic analysis conducted by independent journalistic investigators catalogued and archived more than 200 individual posts by Nicolasito between 2014 and 2020 that explicitly showed extreme luxury, exotic sports cars, private yachts, private jets, watches of hundreds of thousands of dollars, dinners at restaurants that cost thousands of dollars per person, individual bottles of $500 champagne, designer clothes, handmade Italian shoes. It was literally a complete photographic visual inventory of absolutely everything he had allegedly accumulated while the Venezuelan people suffered. But perhaps the most morally questionable post, the most provocative of all according to analysts, came in April 2019. Venezuela was going through exactly at that moment its worst humanitarian crisis. Hyperinflation had completely destroyed any vestige of functional economy. Public hospitals didn't have even potable running water. Schools were closing en masse because they couldn't pay teachers' salaries. Millions of Venezuelans were desperately fleeing the country in the largest exodus in contemporary Latin American history. And Nicolasito, completely oblivious, or more probably completely indifferent to all that suffering, posted an elaborate photograph celebrating his 27th birthday at an ultra-exclusive nightclub in Dubai. The image clearly showed a long table completely covered with bottles of Dom Pérignon champagne, each individual bottle costing approximately $500. There were at least 20 bottles clearly visible in the photograph. $10,000 in imported French champagne just to celebrate a birthday, while literally at that same moment, Venezuelan children were dying from severe malnutrition in hospitals without resources. Comments on his posts oscillated between two absolute extremes. On one hand, servile adulation from his close circle of equally privileged friends. On the other hand, incandescent fury from common Venezuelans who insulted him, cursed him, wished him justice, reminded him of the suffering his family had allegedly caused. But Nicolasito never, absolutely never responded to negative comments. He simply kept posting regularly. He kept showing off systematically. He kept meticulously documenting his life of absolute excess while his country literally emptied of desperate inhabitants. Eventually, toward the end of 2020, international pressure combined with legal advice probably forced him to close or privatize his public social media accounts. But by that time, the damage was already completely done. International investigators, human rights organizations, journalistic media, all had systematically downloaded and archived every individual post, every compromising photograph, every incriminating video. Everything now forms a permanent part of documentary evidence that demonstrates in an absolutely irrefutable way, according to analysts, that this young man lived prolonged years of extreme luxury without any remotely legitimate documented source of income. Now we reach the fifth and final revelation, the most serious of all according to US prosecutors, the one that completely transcends mere alleged theft and obscene luxury, the alleged confirmed criminal connections, the links documented in formal accusations with international drug trafficking organizations that, according to judicial documents, would have converted Nicolasito into a fundamental piece of a transnational criminal structure. This is the part that goes dramatically beyond simple alleged blatant theft and grotesque accumulation of wealth. The one that legally converts Nicolasito from a mere alleged heir kleptocrat into a formal accused directly linked to organized drug trafficking on a hemispheric scale, according to the US government. In March 2020, the US Department of Justice formally presented federal criminal charges against Nicolás Maduro, father, for international drug trafficking, money laundering and criminal conspiracy. Official judicial documents revealed in extensive detail that Maduro would have deliberately converted Venezuela into a functional narco-dictatorship, according to the accusation, systematically using the entire Venezuelan state apparatus to allegedly facilitate massive trafficking of literally tons of cocaine toward the United States and Europe. But crucially, judicial documents also specifically mentioned other key members of the alleged criminal structure. And one of those names, clearly printed in official US government documents, was Nicolás Ernesto Maduro Guerra. According to the formal multiple-charge accusation presented by US federal prosecutors in the Southern District Court of New York, Nicolasito would have actively and consciously participated in coordinated drug trafficking operations directed from the high spheres of the Venezuelan government. Specifically, prosecutors alleged with documentary evidence that Nicolasito allegedly, deliberately used his privileged position as the leader's son to directly facilitate massive shipments of Colombian cocaine through Venezuelan territory, providing alleged official government and military protection to international criminal organizations in exchange for million-dollar cash payments and bank transfers, according to the accusation. Judicial documents cite specific meetings with exact dates according to the accusation. A documented meeting that allegedly occurred in May 2017 between Nicolasito and high-ranking members of the Mexican Sinaloa cartel at a five-star hotel in Caracas, according to prosecutors. Another meeting that would have occurred in August 2018 with representatives of Colombian dissident FARC at a remote rural property in a pure state on the border with Colombia. Prosecutors formally presented as judicial evidence telephone intercepts authorized by US courts, sworn testimonies from multiple protected informants and international bank records that allegedly link million-dollar transfers received by Nicolasito's offshore companies with specific cocaine shipments coordinated from Venezuelan territory, according to the formal accusation. A protected witness, identified only as Witness A in judicial documents to preserve his physical security, declared extensively before U.S. federal prosecutors that Nicolasito allegedly regularly received approximately $5 million for each important shipment of multiple tons of cocaine that successfully left Venezuela toward Honduras and Mexico, with final destination to U.S. markets, according to his testimony. The detailed testimony specifically describes an alleged system where international criminal organizations paid millions of dollars directly to Nicolasito personally for guarantees that the Venezuelan Bolivarian National Guard would not intercept drug shipments while they transited through Venezuelan territory, according to the allegations. Another cooperating witness, identified as Witness B, a former commercial pilot who worked transporting cocaine from clandestine runways in Venezuela, according to his own testimony, declared under oath that Nicolasito would have personally attended at least 2 specific detailed logistical coordination meetings in 2018. The former pilot describes in detail in his testimony how Nicolasito allegedly arrived at these secret meetings in government armored vehicles, accompanied by armed government bodyguards, actively participated in technical discussions about specific air routes and payment structure, and then withdrew, physically carrying briefcases full of US dollars in cash, according to allegations. Financial investigators also meticulously traced highly suspicious bank transfers, according to reports. Between 2016 and 2019, offshore companies registered in Nicolasito's name allegedly received approximately $40 million in international electronic transfers coming directly from bank accounts linked to identified Mexican and Colombian criminal organizations, according to the accusation. The transfers were formally disguised as payments for business consulting services or legitimate commercial contracts, but U.S. prosecutors maintain with evidence that in reality they were allegedly criminal payments for facilitating and protecting massive international drug trafficking operations. In July 2024, the U.S. Department of the Treasury formally included Nicolás Maduro Guerra on its official list of specially designated drug traffickers, technically known as the SDNT list. This official designation places him legally in exactly the same legal category as historical international drug trafficking kingpins. It automatically means that any financial asset or property in his name located in U.S. jurisdiction or cooperating allies is immediately frozen. It means that any person or company doing commercial business with him faces severe sanctions. It means that the United States officially considers him part of a transnational criminal network dedicated to drug trafficking, according to his official designation. This is the complete and documented story of Nicolasito Maduro, according to international investigations. The leader's privileged son, who allegedly deliberately converted the hunger of millions into his personal fortune. The young man without documented legitimate work, who allegedly accumulated $200 million before turning 35. The heir who showed off his wealth on Instagram while his people suffered massively. The formal accused who, according to U.S. federal prosecutors, would have actively participated in international drug trafficking operations. The absolutely perfect symbol, according to analysts, of everything that is fundamentally wrong with authoritarian dynasties that allegedly loot entire nations. Meanwhile, he remains trapped in Venezuela, according to reports. Unable to freely enjoy the alleged massive fortune he accumulated. Unable to travel internationally without risk of arrest. Watching impotently how his accounts progressively freeze. His properties are systematically investigated. His alleged criminal connections publicly unravel. Living with absolute certainty that the whole world knows exactly who he is, according to international public opinion, and what he allegedly did. A formal accused. One signaled for drug trafficking, according to U.S. authorities. A privileged son who allegedly took advantage of his position to enrich himself while millions suffered.